If you're 20 to 30 pounds overweight going into 2026, this is gonna change everything for you. Right now, you might be out of breath walking upstairs. You might feel like your clothes don't fit the way they used to, and you stepped on the scale and you felt that gut punch disappointment, like, man, it's time for me to change. Maybe you've tried a bunch of different diets, a bunch of different challenges, or even cleanses, but nothing has actually stuck for you long term. That changes today, like right now. And by the end of this, my goal is that you know exactly how to lose 20 or 30 pounds and actually keep it off for 2026. I've coached thousands of people who are stuck exactly where you're at right now. They're frustrated, they're tired, they're wondering why they can't stay consistent. But the reality is, it's not about your metabolism, it's not about your genetics, it's about your patterns. And when you change your patterns, you change your body. Something that's crazy and always just blows my mind is that the average person tries 4 to 5 diets every single year, and they quit every single time. And I always wonder to myself, why can't people just stick to a diet? And it's because of these reasons here. They're exhausted from starting over every Monday. They lose 10 pounds quickly, then they gain 15 pounds back. They tell themselves, oh, I'll just start tomorrow, more times than they can count. They go from eating 1,200 calories a day to binging on the weekends. They overthink every single food choice, then break down from decision fatigue. Also, a lot of people struggle with the all or nothing approach, and this all or nothing approach turns one bad day into a bad month. And if that's you right now, the good news is you're not broken. You just need a framework that actually works for you long term. And for me, I've been there. I know exactly how this feels. I've tried all the diets you could think of. I thought I had a genetic problem. I was the guy who would go to the gym and do 5 to 6 days worth of ab training. Nothing ever changed for me. I even tried doing CrossFit style workouts. That didn't work either. I tried sprinting on the treadmill. Nothing worked either. I was like, I just have bad genetics. I just can't get my abs. But I was wrong. I also realized that most people in the gym were in the same exact position as me, where they would just show up, do 5 workouts per week, and their body would never change. I was so confused on this because I was working so hard, but it felt like I was just moving in circles. You're making all these sacrifices, but you have nothing to show for it. And that's a frustrating feeling. That was when I realized that I had to not work harder, but I had to work smarter in order to see the changes I wanted in my body. And once I made the changes that I'm about to share with you today, I was able to drop 38 pounds just in 16 weeks without working harder, but by focusing on the right things. This is also the same strategy that helped Mary Watford lose 60 pounds at 55 years old with PCOS and hypothyroidism. It helped Pat McLeod lose 40 pounds in 4 months and get his abs. And it helped Janet Ramsey lose 48 pounds as a full-time working mom in her 40s. So it's not always about doing more. It was about doing differently for these people. This isn't about sharing another diet. It's about a blueprint for lasting change. The first thing you have to do if you want to lose 20 or 30 pounds in 2026 is actually address and fix your relationship with food. You already know you need to eat less calories and eat in a calorie deficit. A calorie deficit is not good advice for someone who's struggling to lose weight. Here's why. Everybody knows they need to eat less. Everyone knows they need to cut back on their diet, but why can't they do it? It's because of this. The real reason isn't a calorie problem, it's their relationship with food. You can't eat in a calorie deficit or figure out what macros you need to eat until you can actually get control of your relationship with food. And in order to fix your relationship with food, you have to first fix your emotional triggers. And so a lot of people, what they do is they eat when they're stressed, when they're anxious, or when they're bored. They use food to celebrate and to cope. They swing between restriction and rebellion. They feel guilty after eating bad foods, which keeps the cycle alive. So you can't fix a bad relationship with food until you address the emotional triggers. And it's also important to figure out when you feel emotionally triggered. So for some people, it might be on the weekends. For others, it might be during busy work weeks. For some people, it might be when your kids get sick. So identifying what are the patterns? When do I get emotionally triggered? Once I identify it, I increase my level of awareness for my emotional triggers with food. And I figure out also, where do I run to when this happens? Do I go to cookies? Do I go to something salty like chips? Do I go and order DoorDash? So figuring out the patterns and figuring out your triggers. Now I overcome those emotional triggers by this. First is awareness. I ask myself this, before I eat, am I actually hungry or am I just emotional? So many times when we want to emotionally eat, we don't pause and take a moment to ask ourselves this question. Is this true hunger or is this just emotions? And most of the time you just mindlessly grab food and before you know it, you're elbows deep in a pint of ice cream. So to avoid that from happening, you have to first build your awareness and ask yourself anytime you want to eat something that's not on your plan, is this hunger or is this emotions? And then if you're not sure, do what's called a protein test. So if I'm not sure if I'm hungry or emotional, I ask myself this, Would I eat a plain chicken breast right now? Would I have just a protein shake right now? Would that satisfy me? And if the answer is yes, then you're probably hungry. Perfect, let's go eat. If the answer is no, then I can identify that it's most likely a craving, not hunger. After that happens, you want to set a delay. So I'm like, okay, cool. Now I know I have a craving. How do I overcome this craving? Set a 10-minute timer before giving into the craving. Okay, cool. I want to have a couple bites of ice cream, but before I do that, I'm going to set a 10-minute timer and just wait a little bit of time. In that time, you can go for a walk, you could drink water, or you can write out what you're feeling in the moment. And what oftentimes happens, just by you delaying the time from the craving to when you eat the food, the craving just disappears. Or you drink 8 ounces of water and you're like, oh, I actually don't need the ice cream anymore. After I identify what my emotional triggers are, I figure out how to overcome the trigger. I have to figure out a replacement for the emotional trigger. So what I want you to do is create a list of non-food coping habits that you can do when you feel that emotional trigger come on with food. Something like taking a walk, maybe it's praying, maybe it's calling a friend, maybe it's journaling, maybe it's reaching out to your coach or deep breathing. The goal is not to remove the trigger, the goal is to replace the trigger. Because if all you're doing is trying to muster up willpower to overcome a bad relationship with food, that's not gonna work. Now, once I figure out how to replace the trigger, I need to add in some flexibility into my routine, because this just turns into a restrictive plan if you never eat ice cream, if you never have good fun foods. So by flexibility, it looks like this. Build small treats into your plan daily so you don't feel the need to binge later. So one of the reasons why a lot of people fail and they try 4 to 5 diets per year is simply because their plans are too restrictive. Their plans don't allow for a piece of pizza or a glass of wine or a bite of ice cream. So an example could be, maybe you have a piece of chocolate or protein ice cream after dinner every night. Cool. Like one of the things I do is I literally eat protein ice cream every single night. And because I eat protein ice cream every single night, I don't feel the craving or the desire to binge ice cream because I already put it into my plan. Another thing that's key, if you have a bad relationship with food and there's constant patterns for foods that trigger you, is starting to track your food. So if you're someone who does not track your food right now, food tracking is one of my favorite ways to build what's called internal accountability for myself. Because I know if I have a couple of bites of ice cream, I have to actually go and track that. If I have one cookie that's 300 calories, I have to actually go and track that. If I eat extra mixed nuts at the table at work, you have to actually go and track that. Awareness leads to control, because a lot of times we overeat because we mindlessly eat. So creating that mindfulness behind your eating can actually help you have more self-control with your eating. Once I do that, I gotta build boundaries in my life, systems in my life. A couple boundaries I follow that would be game-changing for you is, I don't eat when I'm distracted. So I'm not gonna eat when watching TV, I'm not gonna eat when scrolling social media, I'm not gonna eat when responding to emails. I also like to eat slowly. Taste your food, enjoy your food. Stop trying to wolf down your meals. I think we live in such a fast-paced culture that every time you eat lunch, you eat breakfast, you eat your snacks, you're literally inhaling it, scarfing down food. Slow down when you eat. Now, some good guidelines, once you do this, now you can figure out what are my calories, what are my macros. Now my relationship with food is fixed. I can focus on a 300 to 500 calorie deficit. But the calorie deficit doesn't matter and will not work if your relationship with food is off. Period. So I figure out what my calories are now by eating a 300 to 500 calorie deficit, which you already know what to do. Then I reassess progress every 2 to 3 weeks with photos, not just the scale. So I actually take pictures of myself. And then I center meals around protein. I center meals around fiber. And I love to use food as fuel, not therapy. So many people use food as coping mechanisms for their emotions, when the reality is food is fuel for you to live your best life. Freedom doesn't come from restriction, it comes from understanding why you're eating in the first place. So everything I put into my body is with intention. I'm not just eating so I could feel better, I'm eating so that I could transform my body. And when you understand that, it's a game changer. So first step is fixing your relationship with food in 2026. Second step is you stop drinking calories and you hydrate effectively. You wanna know something insane? The average American drinks 50,000 calories a year, drinks 50,000 calories a year. That's around 15 pounds of fat just from liquids. Most people are gaining fat not from what they eat, but from what they drink. And the thing about drinks, I'll use a smoothie for example. If you eat fruit versus if you drink a smoothie, you will feel much more full eating fruit compared to when you drink the smoothie. And the worst offenders when it comes to high calorie beverages are this: First is gonna be high sugary coffee drinks like Starbucks Frappuccinos, 300, 400, 500, 600 calories. The other one is green juices in smoothies. So you go to a smoothie shop and you get a 400 calorie smoothie. You're like, sweet, this is healthy because it's fruit. But it doesn't fill you up. It leaves you just as hungry as you were before. Next is gonna be beer. Beer, 150 calories per bottle. A margarita, 400 to 600 calories per margarita. Soda, 200 calories per can. That's not even including the sugar. Energy drinks, 250 calories. These drinks add up faster than any meal. So a lot of people are drinking hundreds and hundreds of extra calories per day without even knowing it. And they're wondering, why am I not losing weight? Because you're drinking all of your calories. So here's my hydration blueprint. First is you wanna drink as least amount of calories as possible. My motto is the only calories that I try to drink are from protein shakes. Why? Because I know a protein shake is gonna fill me up more than just drinking like an orange juice or something like that. Next is I aim to drink half of my body weight in ounces of water per day. So if you weigh 200 pounds, that's about 100 ounces of water. If you weigh 150 pounds, that's around 75 ounces of water. Another thing that I like to do is I like to use 0-calorie sodas and flavored waters, like sparkling waters. And I really believe that these are fat loss cheat codes and people should be using them more. So I'll substitute cravings I have for soda with 0-calorie sodas, Coke Zero, Dr. Pepper Zero, etc. I'll also have bubblies or LaCroix. I love having sparkling waters. Like if you go to my garage fridge looks like a vending machine because I have so many 0-calorie or low-calorie drinks because I love drinking good stuff. And so instead of just cutting out my favorite drinks, I found replacements. I found alternatives for them. A big factor that I think a lot of people dismiss is how salt and electrolytes play in your daily intake. And so it's not enough just to drink more water, but you also have to drink water with the right electrolytes. So super simple way is just adding pink Himalayan salt or Celtic sea salt to your water on a daily basis. And my favorite time to drink water is first thing in the morning. And so if you struggle getting your half body weight in ounces of water per day, you have to drink water first thing in the morning. What I like to do is I'll wake up in the morning before I even have coffee, 20 ounces of water with a couple pinches of pink Himalayan salt, mix that up, drink that, and that hydrates me for the morning time. What a lot of people do is they wake up, they drink coffee, and they feel like the coffee hydrates them, and then they don't drink water for hours later. When in reality, coffee actually dehydrates you. And so you wanna make sure if you do drink coffee in the morning, you're drinking water before that. That way you're hydrating yourself after sleeping 6 to 8 hours the night before. Another thing that's big is you wanna avoid or limit drinking 2 hours before bed, because a lot of people will drink right up until they go to bed, and then you're wondering why you're waking up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. The reason why this is so important is because the human body is 60% water. Your brain and heart alone are 73% water. So you're wondering why you're tired, you can't think straight, you can't move properly because you're not hydrating properly, you're drinking the wrong stuff. Proper hydration is gonna improve your metabolism, your sleep, your focus, your mood, and being dehydrated triggers fake hunger signals. So remember we talked about relationship with food and how important that is? Sometimes your brain can't differentiate the difference between a craving and being thirsty. So you're like, oh, I'm hungry. Oh, I'm craving this thing. When the reality is you just need to drink more water. So just imagine what cutting back 50,000 calories per year of drinks could do for your body and your health in the long term. So once I fix my relationship with food, I stop drinking my calories. Next, I wanna master movement. So you burn more calories outside of the gym than inside of the gym. And this is where I got things wrong, and you might be getting this wrong too. It's because of something called your TDEE, which is your total daily energy expenditures. So a quick breakdown of TDEE. So your TDEE, your total daily energy expenditures, is breaking up into 4 sections. The first one is your BMR, which is your metabolism, calories burned at rest. Next is TEF, thermic effect of food, calories burned digesting food. The next one is EAT, exercise activity thermogenesis. This just means the calories you burn during your workouts. And then we have NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. All this means is when I'm moving, when I'm not in the gym. So when I'm talking, when I'm fidgeting, when I'm cleaning, when I'm walking around, when I'm playing with my kids, that type of stuff. The key is NEAT, non-exercise activity, often makes up 10 to 15% or more of your total calories burned. 2 people can do the same workout, but get completely different results because of what they're doing outside of the gym. So here's how to apply it. Obviously, everyone knows that you need to walk 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 steps a day, which can feel daunting at times, but an easy thing to apply is just to increase your step count by 1,000 steps per week until you get up to that 10,000 step mark. So if right now you're doing 5,000 steps, do 6,000 next week. And an easy way to do this is start moving throughout your day. Because think about it like this. If I work out for an hour, that's 1 out of 24 hours of my day. If I focus on the other 23 hours of my day, I could have so much more fat loss potential. That's the way I like to think of it. What if I played with my kids outside versus watching TV inside? What if I took them to the park? What if I parked a little farther at the grocery store? What if I went for a quick 5-minute walk on my lunch break? Little things like that make a massive difference and add up over time. So once I start moving more outside of the gym, I also want to focus on strength training inside of the gym. So inside the gym, strength training should look like 4 workouts per week to build muscle and raise your metabolism long term. Because for most people, their goal isn't necessarily to lose weight, it's to lose fat and gain strength. You don't need to move more intensely, you need to move more consistently. And so I go to the gym to build muscle, and then I focus on fat loss outside of the gym. And this differentiation is huge. Because so many people are going to the gym and they're trying to burn as many calories as they can, when the reality is they're focused on the wrong thing in the gym. When you're in the gym, you focus on building muscle, getting stronger. The metric you should be tracking with your workouts is not calories burned, it's weights lifted. That is 4 hours per week that you're exercising out of, I think, 176 hours in a week. If you can change that and flip that on its head, where, yeah, cool, you work 10 to 12 hours at a desk. However, every hour you're walking 5 minutes and you're just moving throughout your day, that can have a massive shift. And what I've seen for a lot of people is that right there is the game changer to go from a sedentary lifestyle to an active lifestyle. And what I want you to do is follow this method for 6 months, and you will look and feel unrecognizable in the middle of 2026 by summertime. So if you're done starting over and you're ready for a custom system that actually works for you and your busy lifestyle, what I want you to do is fill out the link in the description below. And then what I'll do is I'll reach out directly to you to see how I can best help to get you in the best shape of your life in 2026. You don't need more motivation, you just need momentum and a right structure.